I had finally done it. After years of saving every penny, I purchased my dream home in Seattle, a beautiful two-bedroom house with a yard. As a software developer, I was proud of this accomplishment. My girlfriend Stephanie and I had been dating for 2 years, and everything seemed perfect between us. She had recently started dropping hints about moving in together, and I was even considering proposing in the coming months. Then her best friend Zoe hit a rough patch in life, and Stephanie mentioned she needed a place to stay. Little did I know how that simple conversation would change everything. "Hey, where are you watching from today?" Drop your location in the comments. Hit that like button and subscribe to hear how my girlfriend's small favor ended up costing me more than just money. Growing up with a single father who constantly struggled financially taught me valuable lessons about money management early in life. Dad worked multiple jobs to keep a roof over our heads, often coming home exhausted but never complaining. Watching him, I learned that financial responsibility was non-negotiable. Every dollar mattered. This mindset stayed with me through college. While my classmates partied, I worked part-time jobs to minimize student loans. It was not glamorous, washing dishes in the campus cafeteria, tutoring struggling students, delivering pizzas on weekends. But each paycheck brought me closer to financial independence. After graduation, I landed a position at a promising tech startup in Seattle. The salary was modest by industry standards, but the potential for growth excited me. Those first years were brutal. 60-hour work weeks, constant pressure to meet deadlines, and learning complex systems on the fly. Many colleagues burned out and left, but I persevered. For 5 years, I lived in a tiny studio apartment, drove a 15-year-old car, and tracked every expense in a detailed spreadsheet. My friends teased me about being frugal, but I had a goal: saving enough for a down payment on a house. When I finally received the keys to my 2-bedroom home with a small backyard in a decent neighborhood, the sense of accomplishment was overwhelming. Every sacrifice had been worth it. I met Stephanie at my friend Tyler's housewarming party. She arrived with a homemade apple pie and an infectious laugh that caught my attention immediately. That night, we discovered shared passions for hiking the Pacific Northwest trails and experimenting with international cooking. Our first date was at a Thai cooking class, and we had been inseparable since. Stephanie worked as a marketing coordinator for a local fitness company. Her creativity balanced my analytical nature perfectly. Where I planned everything meticulously, she brought spontaneity into my life. When I hesitated to try new experiences, she gently pushed me outside my comfort zone. Our relationship felt like the perfect partnership. Looking back, the warning signs were there, but I conveniently ignored them. Stephanie often mentioned how her ex-boyfriends had paid for exotic vacations. She would pause at jewelry store windows, pointing out expensive pieces she loved. When birthdays or anniversaries approached, she dropped increasingly obvious hints about costly gifts. I justified her behavior as harmless, believing everyone had different expectations in relationships. Zoe had been Stephanie's best friend since their freshman year of college. They shared an apartment for 3 years before Zoe moved in with her boyfriend Justin. I had met Zoe several times at gatherings. She was loud, opinionated, and always seemed to dominate conversations. Stephanie adored her, often saying, "Zoe is the sister I never had." Their friendship sometimes struck me as one-sided. Stephanie frequently rearranged our plans to help Zoe with various crises. When Zoe had car trouble, Stephanie would drop everything to pick her up. When Zoe fought with Justin, Stephanie would spend hours on the phone consoling her. I supported this loyalty, even though it occasionally frustrated me. Then came the perfect storm in Zoe's life. Justin broke up with her after 4 years together, leaving her emotionally devastated. 2 weeks later, her company announced downsizing, and Zoe was among those laid off. With no income and a breakup draining her emotionally, she could no longer afford her apartment rent. Stephanie grew increasingly worried about her friend's situation. Our conversations began revolving around Zoe's problems. "She has nowhere to go," Stephanie would say, anxiety etched across her face. "Her parents live across the country, and she cannot afford a plane ticket right now." The conversation that changed everything happened during dinner at my house. Stephanie had prepared her signature pasta dish, and we were enjoying a quiet meal when she casually mentioned. So I was thinking about Zoe's situation. I nodded, mouth full of garlic bread. Your spare room is just sitting there, she continued, her voice carefully casual. What if she crashed there for a few days? Just until she figures things out. The spare room functioned as my home office, where I occasionally worked remotely. It was my dedicated space for focusing on coding projects. But the pleading look in Stephanie's eyes made it difficult to refuse. How long are we talking about? I asked cautiously. A week tops, Stephanie promised, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. She just needs a moment to catch her breath and make some plans. You would be helping someone in their darkest hour. Against my better judgment, I agreed, but set clear conditions. 1 week, and she needs to actively look for jobs and a new place during that time. Stephanie nearly knocked over her wine glass, rushing to hug me. You are the most generous, kind-hearted man I have ever known, she gushed. I promise you will hardly notice she is here. Zoe is super respectful of other people's spaces. That promise would prove to be the first of many broken ones. 3 days later, Zoe arrived with what appeared to be all her worldly possessions. Instead of the single suitcase I had expected, she pulled up in a friend's truck loaded with multiple boxes, furniture pieces, and even a small desktop computer setup. Where should I tell them to put my dresser? She asked breezily, walking into my house as if she had lived there for years. Before I could respond that a dresser seemed excessive for a 1-week stay, Stephanie jumped in. The spare room has plenty of space along the north wall. I will show you. I watched in dismay as Stephanie guided movers carrying Zoe's queen-sized memory foam mattress into my home office. My desk was unceremoniously pushed against the window to accommodate it. My bookshelves were rearranged without consultation. By evening, the room that had once been my organized workspace resembled a college dorm room with clothes spilling from open boxes and posters leaning against walls. That first night was awkward. Zoe dominated dinner conversation with detailed accounts of her ex-boyfriend's shortcomings and theories about which coworkers had sabotaged her position at the company. When I mentioned an early morning meeting the next day, she seemed surprised that her loud music might disturb me. Oh, sorry, she said with a laugh that suggested she was not sorry at all. I am totally a night owl. But do not worry, I will use headphones. Despite my discomfort, I tried to be a gracious host. After all, everyone deserves compassion during difficult times. I reminded myself it was only for a week. The problems began immediately. That first morning, I discovered the hot water tank emptied after Zoe's hour-long shower. When I returned from work, every light in the house was on, despite her being the only one home. The kitchen counters were cluttered with special gluten-free organic products she had purchased and left out. At night, the thin walls did little to muffle her video calls. No, he is just some tech guy. Steph is dating. I overheard her telling someone at 1 a.m. The house is pretty nice, though. You should come see it. By the third day, I noticed food missing from the refrigerator, including prepared meals I had made for my lunches. When questioned, Zoe shrugged. Oh, I thought that was up for grabs. My bad. What bothered me most was the complete absence of any job hunting efforts. No resumes were being updated. No online applications submitted. No interviews scheduled. When I gently asked about her plans one morning, she vaguely mentioned exploring options and taking time to reassess her career path. As the 1-week mark approached, my patience wore thin, but I remained silent to avoid upsetting Stephanie. She had been staying over more frequently since Zoe's arrival, claiming she wanted to help her friend adjust, though I never witnessed any actual assistance. On day 7, I finally broached the subject over breakfast, keeping my tone light. So, Zoe, have you found any apartment leads? Today marks a week since you moved in. Stephanie immediately tensed beside me. Zoe's eyes welled with tears. I cannot believe you are counting the days, Zoe said, her voice trembling. Do you have any idea how hard this is for me? I lost my boyfriend, my job, and my home in the span of a month. Stephanie shot me a disappointed look. Morgan, How can you be so insensitive? Zoe is going through a traumatic experience. You said a week, I reminded her quietly. We agreed on that time frame. That was before we realized how severe the housing crisis is, Stephanie countered. Have you seen rental prices lately? It is impossible to find anything affordable on unemployment benefits. Zoe proceeded to share heart-wrenching stories about apartments she claimed to have visited, all either dilapidated in dangerous neighborhoods or requiring income 3 times the rent amount. Her performance was Oscar-worthy, complete with a voice crack when describing a potential roommate who made her feel unsafe. By the end of the conversation, I somehow found myself agreeing to just another week to give her more time. The moment I conceded, the tears miraculously dried up, and Zoe bounced off to make a smoothie in my blender. Later that night, I had my first serious argument with Stephanie. You made me look like the bad guy, I said, trying to keep my voice down so Zoe would not hear from the next room. Because you were acting like one, Stephanie replied. What happened to the compassionate man I fell in love with? Would it kill you to help someone in need? I am helping, but there needs to be an end date and some effort on her part. Relationships are not about keeping score, Morgan. The second and third weeks brought escalating problems. Zoe began inviting friends over without asking. I would come home to find strangers lounging on my couch, eating my food using my Netflix account. One evening, I discovered someone had spilled wine on my living room rug, without bothering to clean it or mention it. The refrigerator became a battleground, with my carefully budgeted groceries disappearing at alarming rates. Weekly shopping trips that had once cost $60 now ran over $150. Yet, whenever I opened the fridge, I could not find anything I had purchased. My utility bills skyrocketed. The electricity usage doubled, water consumption increased by 70%, and the internet seemed suspiciously slower than usual. When I adjusted the thermostat to save energy, I would return to find it changed back. One morning, while taking out garbage, I noticed several crumpled job listing printouts in the trash. Upon closer inspection, I saw they were for positions perfectly suited to Zoe's experience, some even at companies where Stephanie had connections. None had been applied for. Meanwhile, Stephanie had essentially moved in without discussion. Her clothes gradually migrated into my closet. Her toiletries multiplied in my bathroom. Her favorite foods replaced mine in the pantry. What had once been my peaceful sanctuary now felt like a crowded hostel, where I was increasingly treated as an unwelcome landlord rather than the homeowner. My home office had been relocated to a corner of the living room, where concentration proved impossible with constant interruptions and background noise. My work performance began suffering, with my team leader noting my decreased productivity during our weekly review. Then came the financial revelation that opened my eyes. The utility bill arrived showing an electricity usage 3 times higher than any previous month. The amount due was staggering, nearly $400 compared to my usual $120. Confused, I began investigating. The usage patterns showed constant high consumption even during daytime hours when the house should have been empty. After searching the house, I discovered the cause in Zoe's room, a sophisticated cryptocurrency mining setup running 24 hours a day, generating significant heat and consuming enormous electricity. What is this? I asked, confronting Zoe when she returned that evening. My mining rig, she replied casually. It is how I am making money until I find a new job. Did you think to ask before running equipment that tripled my electric bill? Stephanie said it was fine, she answered with a shrug. She told me you would not mind, since you make good money. That night I questioned Stephanie, who admitted giving Zoe permission. It is not a big deal, Morgan. She is trying to get back on her feet. What is a few $100s to you, compared to what it means to her? In that moment, I realized Stephanie had been giving away permissions and access to my home without consulting me. The boundaries I had established were meaningless to her. My growing uneasiness crystallized into a disturbing realization: this arrangement was not temporary. They had no intention of changing it. The breaking point came unexpectedly on a Thursday afternoon. A blinding migraine had forced me to leave work early, something that rarely happened. I entered my house quietly, planning to take medication and lie down in a dark room. As I passed the kitchen, I heard Stephanie and Zoe laughing. I paused, not intending to eavesdrop, but what I heard next froze me in place. "He does not need to know how long your lease extension actually was," Stephanie was saying between giggles. "It is his house, but we are practically living here now. Free, rent-free utilities, and he even buys most of the groceries." Zoe responded gleefully. "We hit the jackpot with this guy. My old boyfriend would have kicked me out after 3 days. Once we are engaged, I will convince him to add me to the deed." Stephanie continued, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Then we will have more say in how things run around here. Maybe even convert the garage into another bedroom for when my sister visits." The casual way they discussed manipulating me, treating my hard-earned home as their communal property, sent a wave of nausea through me that had nothing to do with my migraine. Every sacrifice I had made, every extra hour I had worked, every small luxury I had denied myself to achieve homeownership was being dismissed as their fortunate windfall. I stepped into the kitchen doorway, both women startled, wine glasses freezing halfway to their lips. "Morgan," Stephanie's voice pitched unnaturally high, "you are home early. Do you feel okay? You look pale." "I heard what you said," I stated flatly. The pounding in my head intensified, but clarity was breaking through the pain. "Oh, we were just joking around," Stephanie attempted, forcing a laugh. "Girl talk, you know. Nothing serious." Zoe quickly stood, mumbling something about needing to make a call, and disappeared into my former office. "How long has this been the plan?" I asked once we were alone. "To move her in permanently. To move yourself in without discussion. To get your name on my property. You are completely overreacting." Stephanie insisted, switching from humor to indignation. "Zoe needs help right now. I thought you understood that. For 3 weeks I have been asking when she plans to leave. You kept saying soon, and she is trying." That was clearly a lie. "It is not a lie. The job market is terrible right now. I found job listings in the trash, Stephanie. Listings you printed, but never gave her." Her expression hardened. "So now you are digging through garbage to spy on us. That is toxic behavior, Morgan." The conversation devolved from there, spiraling into revelations that shocked me. Stephanie had never expected Zoe to leave. They had discussed this arrangement long before approaching me with the 1-week story. Most disturbingly, Stephanie saw nothing wrong with making unilateral decisions about my home. "You make good money," she said, her voice rising. "Why cannot you just support us both until Zoe gets back on her feet?" "What kind of man complains about helping his girlfriend's best friend?" "The kind who values honesty and respect," I answered. "The kind who expects to be consulted about who lives in the home he pays for." "So, this is about money. You are that petty." "No. This is about trust and boundaries, both of which you have repeatedly violated." The argument escalated until I realized we were getting nowhere. Emotions were too high for rational discussion. "I need you both to leave for the night," I said finally. "I need space to think." Stephanie's face flushed with anger. "Leave. This is my home too now. I have been staying here for weeks." Without ever being invited to move in, I pointed out. "Please just go to your apartment tonight. We can talk tomorrow when we are calmer." "If I leave now, we are done," she threatened. "Is that what you want? To throw away 2 years over something this stupid?" When I did not immediately capitulate, she stormed into the bedroom, threw some clothes into a bag, and left with Zoe following behind. The slamming door reverberated through the empty house. Rather than feeling relief, I felt hollow. Had I overreacted? Was I being selfish? The doubts crept in, as they often do when someone you trust tells you that your feelings are invalid. I spent that night in a hotel, unable to find peace in my own home. Around midnight, I called my father. Something I rarely did with personal problems. "Son," he said after listening patiently, Would you treat someone you love the way she treated you? That simple question cut through the confusion. No, I would never manipulate someone I claim to care about. I would never make plans to take their property or invite others to live off their hard work without consent. The next morning, I researched tenant laws in Washington state. Though no formal agreement existed, Zoe could potentially claim tenant rights after establishing residency. I called Jason, an attorney friend who confirmed my concerns and advised documenting everything. Even without a lease, someone living at your address for a certain period gains occupancy rights, he explained. You will need to follow formal eviction procedures if she refuses to leave voluntarily. The legal reality cemented my decision. This relationship was beyond saving. The trust was irreparably broken. Now I needed to protect myself legally and emotionally while extracting myself from this toxic situation. I returned home the following day with a clear plan and newfound resolve. Both Stephanie and Zoe were there, acting as if nothing had happened. Stephanie approached with a hug, which I sidestepped. "We need to talk," I said calmly. "All of us." At the kitchen table, I presented Zoe with a formal written notice, giving her 30 days to vacate the premises as required by state law. I had included resources for housing assistance programs and job placement services. "What is this?" she sputtered, looking at the paper as if it might bite. "Legal notice," I replied. "You have 30 days to find new accommodations." "You cannot do this," Stephanie interjected. "This is my home too." "Actually, it is not," I countered. "Your name is not on the deed, mortgage, or any utility. You have not contributed financially to this household. You do not live here officially." The conversation grew heated, with accusations of cruelty and selfishness flying my way. I remained calm, having anticipated their reactions. When Stephanie threatened to break up with me if I forced her friend out, I simply nodded. "I think that is for the best," I said. "Our values clearly do not align." Their shock was palpable. The power dynamic had shifted, and they had not expected it. That afternoon, I installed security cameras in the common areas of the house, legally permitted since I had provided written notice to occupants. I changed the Wi-Fi password, providing limited guest access that restricted bandwidth usage and blocked Zoe's mining operations. I opened a new checking account and redirected my direct deposits, ensuring Stephanie could not access my finances, as she had occasionally done when helping me pay bills online. The following weeks were uncomfortable but necessary. Stephanie vacillated between tearful pleas to reconsider and venomous accusations about my character. Zoe suddenly discovered multiple apartment opportunities and job prospects that had supposedly been unavailable days earlier. Surprisingly, they both moved out before the 30-day notice expired. Stephanie left first, taking her belongings while I was at work. Her parting gift was a scathing text message detailing my failures as a partner. Zoe followed 3 days later, leaving behind stained carpets, damaged furniture, and walls that needed repainting. The spare room required significant work to remove the lingering cigarette smell, a habit Zoe had denied having. The memory foam mattress had somehow damaged the hardwood flooring beneath it. The closet door was broken off its track. None of this mattered compared to reclaiming my space and peace of mind. I spent a weekend converting the spare room back into a proper home office. Each item I positioned, each personal touch I added, felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. The security locks and system were upgraded, ensuring no one could enter without explicit permission again. The initial days alone in my house were admittedly difficult. Silence, that had once felt peaceful now, seemed to highlight my solitude. Doubts occasionally surfaced. Had I been too harsh, too inflexible? These moments passed as I reminded myself of the dishonesty and disrespect I had experienced. I reconnected with friends who had taken a back seat during my relationship with Stephanie. Weekend hiking trips, board game nights, and casual dinners slowly rebuilt my social circle. One friend recommended a financial management course specifically addressing protecting assets in relationships, which proved invaluable. Joining a local homeowners group introduced me to others who had experienced similar situations. Their support validated my experiences and provided practical advice about property maintenance and protection. One member, a retired contractor, helped me repair the damage to my spare room at a fraction of quoted prices. Therapy became an unexpected but crucial part of my healing process. Weekly sessions helped me understand why I had ignored red flags and how to establish healthier boundaries in future relationships. My therapist suggested journaling as a way to process emotions, a practice that initially felt awkward but became therapeutic. 6 months after the breakup, an unexpected email arrived from Stephanie. The message contained what appeared to be an apology, though it was clouded with qualifiers and subtle blame-shifting. The truly revealing part came in the second paragraph, where she mentioned that she and Zoe had moved in with another boyfriend who had unfortunately discovered their arrangement when Zoe's ex-boyfriend contacted him with warnings. I felt a strange combination of vindication and sadness. The pattern they had attempted with me had been repeated with someone else. I chose not to respond, seeing no benefit in reopening closed wounds. Through mutual friends, I occasionally heard updates about Stephanie. She had apparently crafted a narrative where I had cruelly evicted her during a vulnerable period, conveniently omitting the manipulation and deceit. Some acquaintances believed her version, which initially bothered me, until I realized their opinions were based on incomplete information and did not reflect my reality. The most profound lessons from this experience transformed how I approach relationships and boundaries. I learned that establishing clear expectations early is not unromantic. It is essential. Those who respect you will respect your boundaries. Those who do not were never truly on your side. I recognize that red flags do not become less red simply because we care about someone. The small moments of entitlement, the casual dismissal of concerns, the subtle manipulations, these are not minor personality quirks, but important indicators of deeper issues. True partnership involves mutual support, not one-sided sacrifice. Financial independence is not just about having separate bank accounts, but about respecting each other's resources and contributions. Love should never be used as leverage to extract material benefits. Perhaps most importantly, I discovered strength in standing up for myself. The fear of confrontation had kept me silent too long, allowing the situation to deteriorate. Finding my voice was uncomfortable but necessary for reclaiming my sense of agency. Today, my house truly feels like home again. The spare room functions perfectly as the office space I originally envisioned. My financial situation has recovered from the unexpected expenses of that 3-month period. I have even started dating again, approaching new relationships with healthier boundaries and greater awareness. I do not regret the relationship with Stephanie despite how it ended. Every experience, even painful ones, offers growth if we are willing to learn. The lessons I gained about trust, respect, and self-worth have made me more discerning but not bitter. The journey forward continues with hopeful steps. Relationships should be built on mutual respect, shared values, and genuine care, never on exploitation or hidden agendas. While I cannot predict the future, I move toward it with clearer eyes and stronger boundaries, grateful for the wisdom gained through adversity. What about you? Have you ever had someone take advantage of your generosity or cross important boundaries in a relationship? How did you handle it? Share your story in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe for more real-life experiences. And if you know someone who might be going through something similar, share this video. Sometimes hearing another person's story is exactly what we need to find our own courage. Thanks for listening. And remember, setting healthy boundaries is not selfish. It is self-respect.